showing out, making moves, no doubt. FFA pride, it's what we're all about. From classroom dreams to real world flair, we got the stories you won't find anywhere. Beyond the jacket where the stories unfold, voices of the future, fearless and bold. Tune in now, let the passion ignite. It's more than a jacket, it's a way of life. Beyond the jacket where passion meets purpose.
Some journeys in agriculture don't follow a straight line. They build year by year, question by question, and experience by experience. Today's guest has explored agriculture from the lab bench to the classroom, turning curiosity into hands-on learning. Her story shows how growth in FFA can take many forms, all connected by a commitment to learning and service. Let's go beyond the jacket with our guest today, Esther. So Esther, thank you so much for joining us. First, why don't we just go ahead and let you kind of introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Esther VanOverbeke. I am currently a part of the Waverly FFA Chapter in Nebraska, but spent my first 2 years in the Starter FFA Chapter in Oklahoma. So my path hasn't been straight. I moved in the middle of my FFA career in the middle of high school, but I was really able to find my niche in the agri-science fair and with research in ag ed, which is why I'm attending the University of Nebraska-Lincoln next year to major in agriculture education.
That's super exciting, Esther. My degree will also be in ag communications and education. That way I have the path to kind of do both. Where did your journey first begin in agriculture? Was it something you were always exposed to or something you found in high school?
Yeah, so my mom's originally from Ashland, Nebraska, which is about 10 minutes, 15 minutes from Waverly. So we spent a lot of time back here on the family farm. So whether I was riding in the combine with my grandpa or helping work cattle or spend time with my grandma and just see the behind the scenes of that, I was exposed to that at a really young age. But I also grew up running around the halls of Oklahoma State's Animal Science Department where my mom worked. And so I saw it from both the live animal side as well as the meat science side, and got a lot of little bits of wisdom from a lot of people because I would stop in their office. And so growing up, it was something I was really passionate about. And so joining FFA was kind of a no-brainer for me.
That's so cool. And can't lie, I'm very jealous that you had your mom just like where you could casually be in like the animal science wing of OSU. That's insane. I'm guessing I have this question lined up, but I think I already know the answer. Is that kind of exposure to the science side as well what made you curious enough to start research as early as 8th grade?
Yeah, I think it really built my communication skills because I realized how important it was to not only communicate at a high level with them, as professors, but also communicate at a high level with those around me so others could understand what I was trying to get across. Because I remember my biggest learning curve was understanding statistical analysis and data because nobody teaches you in 8th grade math how to explain a p-value. And so I remember sitting down. Yes. So my mom obviously has her PhD and has been through the research process. And so to have that resource has been really awesome at my house because I can walk upstairs and say, I don't understand. And I think to be able to do that and have that background knowledge and be able to walk in and have intelligent conversations with people who are experts in their field, I think was a benefit. But at the same time, I think it also taught me how to ask important questions because if I didn't understand something, I needed to understand it. Not only so I could explain it when I explain my project to judges and all the things, but when I'm writing papers up for publication, or whether I'm running through my methods or trying to explain to other professors like what my data means. And so being able to communicate at a high level is really important, but I think also being able to be brave enough to ask questions, especially my 8th grade year, like that was hard.
Oh, I can't imagine. I am just thinking back to when I presented research, and I wonder if you shared this fear of like you feel confident in your research, but you're also terrified because you're like, people are going to ask me questions with real big words and I just don't know. There's sometimes that they'll hit you with a question where you honestly have to be like, I don't know. And you have to think of a way to say I don't know in a smart way.
I was on national stage for my speech and they asked me a question. And I knew I had talked about it, but my head went blank. And I had to sit on national stage and go, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. it's
I
scary
remember
'cause you think
being
that's like the worst case scenario.
so embarrassed.
Yeah.
So embarrassed. But it's okay. It worked out
Yeah.
for the best.
Yeah,
Esther, and you're like, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, that happened to me at state speech 2 years ago. I like talked about it in my speech, and then I got it, and then they asked me a question about it, and I was like, great question. Like, I actually don't even know what you're talking about. Okay. And they were like, okay, we're gonna go to the next question. I was like, good
Thank
idea.
you. Please do.
Yeah, please skip that one.
You mentioned in your application to come on the podcast, and I remember reading and being like, this girl sounds awesome, you know? You talked about a BSL-2 laboratory. What is that? What do they do on a day-to-day? Educate me because I don't know, and educate our listeners.
Yeah, so BSL-2 just simply stands for Biosafety Level 2. So we're able to use pathogens within those laboratories, but we also have a lot of safety precautions. So like the trainings I took to start there, I think took me like 6 hours. Like it was a lot of training to get in there. But I was fortunate enough to be able to do that. And it allows me to use pathogenic strains instead of non-pathogenic strains, which the difference probably isn't that big, but it gives you a little bit more credibility when you're looking at the science community of, oh, I used a pathogenic strain versus a non-pathogenic strain. And so on a day-to-day basis, I was only there in person for about a couple weeks before I started writing like remotely because like COVID was happening and all that stuff. But on a daily basis, it looks like running research either with pathogens or not. But it allows them to also use different chemicals within research. And so there were a lot of other researchers in that lab with me that were running different studies. And so it was really cool to get to watch them and also have that hands-on experience before I moved to Nebraska.
Wow. That's
what
cool.
skill? Oh, sorry. I don't want to cut you off.
No, go ahead, Lacey.
I was just going to follow up with what were the skills that you think that you gained the most working at the meat labs at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln?
Oh, at the meat lab at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, the greatest skill I learned, I think how to communicate with groups of people and meet consumers' needs. So one of the things I've been fortunate enough to do, we have a sales section of our meat lab. And because I wasn't 18, I'm still not 18, but because I'm not 18, I can't legally touch a knife, which means I can't do a lot of different things back there. And so I got to work the sales area. And so meat science has been in my life for a really long time because that's what my mom's master's and PhD is in. And so I'm meat judge for all 5 years of high school, or 5 years of FFA, all 4 years of high school. And so I understand how carcasses get broken down. And so to be able to have those conversations with consumers and they're like, do you have this? No, I don't have that. Well, what can I have instead? And to be able to provide them those options and be able to meet their needs, I think was really cool. But I also got to learn about a lot of people. So we have this guy that comes in, his name is Frank. And Frank is everyone's favorite person because he is so nice, he's so sweet, and he just wants to talk to you. And so that I think has been my favorite part, but also a greatest skill because at the BSL-2 lab at Oklahoma State, you didn't really communicate with a lot of people. You kind of just do your own thing, like work on your own. And so to be able to learn how to communicate with diverse groups of people, I think is an important skill that I'm ready to use when I get to college.
Lacey says this so much, Esther, that the soft skills you learn in FFA without even realizing you're gaining those for future careers or just everyday conversation like we're having right now. FFA members are set apart in that aspect and move forward effortlessly. Words. Sorry. They move forward in their career and academically effortlessly. I know that you have several SAEs, and I've loved learning about your ag research. It's definitely something I do not know a whole lot about. You had an unpaid placement SAE as well as research experience. Talk a little bit about that SAE. Show our listeners how many things you have done in the FFA.
My SAE list is long. My poor AET, it acts like it's gonna like blow my Chromebook up every time I open it because there's so many things listed. But my unpaid placement is all about ag education. So I've been a TA for Intro to AFNR for the past 2 semesters. So I just started my second semester in that class. And that has been a really cool experience, especially wanting to go into ag ed. That's a really hands-on way to do it. And I get to work with several students and work with them to develop their SAE plans, which has been a really full circle moment for me because I remember my ag teacher sitting down and being like, okay, like SAE. And I remember I looked at them 8th grade and I was like, I don't even know what that stands for. Like, I don't even know what that means. But then I've also done ag camp for 2 years, which is elementary focused, a day or two, couple of sessions that they just come and learn about different facets of agriculture. So we've done nutrition and housing. We've done live chicks and eggs. We've done honey and bees. We've worked with the Natural Resource District to come in. We've worked with the Pork Board. And so to be able to expose those students, especially because Waverly is a more urbanized community, we're so close to Lincoln, to be able to expose them to what that production agriculture can look like, but also other areas of agriculture that they can be involved in has been a really neat experience as well. And then in Stillwater, it kind of sparked my passion for ag education when I worked with 4th grade ag day. And when we had like 600 students come in within 2 days, and my entire job was to have them crack open an egg and to tell them the parts of it. And just to watch them light up as they made discoveries on their own, I think just really let my passion for education, especially for students. And so it's been a lot of fun over the past 4 years to be able to work hands-on with students, but also work in education, which is the biggest passion of mine.
You talk about your mom being in education, your agri-science research, and being able to communicate your ideas is why you love doing that SAE. What sparked the initial interest for ag ed?
I don't know if there was a moment that sparked it, but I've been fortunate enough to have 4 ag teachers over my 5 years. So I had 3 ag teachers in Stillwater because we were a chapter of like 265 members. And then I've had Mrs. Spath at Waverly. And so those people have walked with me through my entire life. Even my ag teachers from Oklahoma, like right after I moved, I competed at the district speech contest. My mom posted about it on Facebook, of course. And so I got a text message from them that was like, we're so proud of you, like all these things. And so they've continued to walk with me over my journey as well. And so just to be fortunate enough to have those 4 individuals walk with me over my time, and to have them not only walk with me and cheer me on when things are going really well, but also walk with me as life gets hard and maybe I'm disappointed in the way I placed or the way I performed or anything else that's going on outside of school and FFA. The impact they've made on me has sparked my interest and my desire to make that same impact on students. And so I think that the consistency that they bring is what makes me want to go into ag ed.
I love that. I loved hearing about the 4th grade, like, what was it called? The 4th grade, like, I think it's just ag day. I think that's what we called it as well. In our chapter, we did 5th grade. But I love hearing the parallels because even though it's been a minute, ag day was my favorite. It was my favorite activity we did in FFA. I always got to bring in cows. And I remember I also had I had a very big passion for education as well. And it was very prevalent on that day because I was the only FFA member who actually would bring I brought like a workbook. I would have a like almost class ready for the kids when they got to my little section. So what was yours like? I would love to hear the similarities and differences of what that looked like for you for your 4th grade ag day.
Yeah, so I was only involved with it for 1 year just because they didn't have 8th graders. Yeah, because I moved. But we had 6 different stations. So there's 6 elementary schools in Stillwater. So Stillwater's a pretty big community. And so those 6 elementary schools, they were split among 2 days. And so I think we had 6 rotations a day, something like that. And they just went around so it was all based on a theme. So it was farmers are and then fill in the blank. So my theme was farmers are educated because they have to understand the parts of how does an egg turn into a chick and how do we get eggs to the store? And so to be able to teach those students that in a really simple and quick manner, I think we had like 12 minutes to walk them through that whole process. But they discovered a lot. And I could as they asked questions at the end, I could see that they were really thinking about it. And they were really like, okay, wait, this is starting to make sense. I understand how things get to the store. And I remember there were kids that walked in that day to my room because I was one of the first rotation that I had that day. And they walked in and they said, aren't eggs just like at the store? Like, don't they just like show up there? And then to see them like walk out and they're like, oh wait, like they come from a farm and like they are raised by a chick and all this stuff was really cool to see them learn and develop and grow and also gain an ag literacy, which I think was really important for our community too. And so through those 6 rotations, they learned about bees, they learned about eggs, they learned about flowers, they learned about like large animals. Like I think one year we did like ultrasounds on like a sheep or something like that. So that was really cool to watch them and then to hear at the end like their favorite parts. So yeah, it was a really neat experience.
Very similarly, sorry, Lacey,
nope,
again,
you're good.
Very similarly to Esther, my original ag communications SAE, I went to different elementary schools in my town, and I promise I'm getting somewhere with this. And I did a dairy lesson, and then I went back a couple weeks later, did a beef lesson, a poultry lesson, and it was a way to get involved in ag ed, kind of like you. And I remember on my beef lesson, which is my passion, the other hosts definitely know that's my niche area. I asked, my first opening question was, where does your hamburger come from? And a girl on the very front row of the classroom was like, oh, I know, pick me, you know? And I chose her, and she goes, the Walmart. And I remember, like, this was like maybe my first or second time going through the process with kids about agriculture education, and just being absolutely floored that they didn't know where their food came from. And I think that ignited my passion even more. So when you were saying about the chick and the egg and how kids thought their poultry and produce came from the store, I think it gives a call to action even more for individuals like you that want to go into ag education. It's so vital. But it changed the way I saw ag education and why it is so vital. I know you've kind of had an instant of that, but has it truly transformed the way you teach or the way you understand agriculture yourself?
I think it's taught me, I think in this experience has been through AFNR. So the classes that I've taken, I took 2 years of intro in Stillwater, and our 2 years were very different. So we touched on a lot of different aspects of agriculture, but we didn't go over the same concepts, because it's really common for you to take 8th and 9th grade intro. But being a TA for intro to AFNR this year, while I've been at Waverly, I've taken ag sales, animal science, large animal management, and I've gotten certified in meat science. So I haven't touched the plant science pathway. I didn't touch environmental. I didn't really touch ag business. Like, that's not really my thing. And so walking with students through intro to AFNR, I realized, okay, wait, like these students also need to understand, like, how do we protect the environment and how do we grow plants? Because the people that know me well know that I can't grow plants to save my life. Like, my plants are dead within like 3 weeks of hitting my house. And like, they're supposed to last for 4 weeks on their own. So I don't really know how I end up killing them all. And so, yes, as I love to share my passion for animal science and for meat science with these students, I also realize how important it is for me to also understand plant science and agronomy and natural resources and wildlife management and all those things. And so I think that has shown me ways that I can grow to be a better teacher for those students, especially as I'm taking a more active role in the class this semester, having walked through it for a semester. And so I think it's allowed me to say, okay, like, it's okay that we don't know everything. Like, we're going to learn this together. And so I think that's how it's changed the way I've seen ag ed.
Because honestly, you kind of answered the next question, which was with like, how has teaching changed the way you understand yourself? And I think that you answered that perfectly by being like, I have learned that I also need to learn the things that I don't know a lot about, which is the plants, which is the agronomy side of it, because it's important. That's something I always joke with people. I'm like, if college was free, I would probably go back and just get random degrees, because I do love learning. It's something that I very much enjoy. And I've even looked into where I know some different universities will have like classes that you can take for free. And I'm like, I would honestly be down for that.
Lacey, you should tutor me. You can take college classes for free. Biology.
What? I did take biology. I did take it. It's been a minute, but I took it. It's actually been almost a decade.
Esther was talking earlier, kind of sidetracked, sorry. Esther was talking earlier about p-values, and I was like, oh, I read that chapter today. It's very confusing.
Listen, I almost dropped my lore of that. That's my favorite thing to do when someone's like, oh, I've done the research. And I'm like, what's a p-value? And then they just look at me and I'm
Yeah.
like, you don't know anything about research. You Googled it or you looked on TikTok. So I'll get frustrated. That's always my one-liner.
Yeah, and my poor mom, like having God bless her for having the patience to sit there with a little 8th grade girl and like try and explain it to me. Like I probably looked at her and said, I don't even understand the words you're saying. Like,
Yeah, it's hard.
Statistically different. Like they're not the same number. Like, of course they're different. Like I remember saying that to her and she was like, no, like that's not how this works. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, my favorite was when I took physical chemistry because you literally did 2 equations. You did ideal and reality, and you had to find the difference because it's like, this is how these are how these elements are supposed to act, but they don't. This is how they actually react. And you're like, huh? Everyone's just like, I don't understand what's happening. And you have to accept that you don't understand and you're kind of doing black magic. And that's just the beauty of chemistry.
I love you,
anyway,
Lacey.
Back to actually what we're talking about. So, what was the ag camp like? Because I believe you did that at the current FFA that you're at now. So you might have more experience in that because you've been there for 3 years. So run us through kind of the leadership roles behind the ag camp that you participated in.
Yeah. So my sophomore year, I started to kind of think about, okay, so like, what do I want my career to be? Because after I moved, I was like, okay, I don't really know what I want to do now. Like, go to Oklahoma State, probably not moving 400 miles away from home again. Like, I don't really know. So I was trying to like figure my life out again. And so I remember I mentioned my ag teacher. I was like, I think I want to teach maybe, like, I don't know. And she was like, let's do ag camp. And I go, what? We're going to do what? And she goes, you're going to help with ag camp. And I go, okay, like that's fine. So I was on a committee with 2 of the other girls on my chapter office team for the next year. So we started playing this in like April. And our ag camp was in July. So we kind of planned a little bit late, but it's all right because we made it through. And so we kind of started thinking about, okay, what do we like? What are we passionate about? And I said, I know about bees. And Grace goes, okay, I can help you with that. So we did bees and honey because there's like a local honey farm that I drive by every day when I go to the farm to help work my calves, which are my show projects. And so I was like, I can do that. Like, I'm sure I can figure that out. And then Brooke was like, okay, I'll do plants. And then we got the pork board to come in and talk to us, or talk to our students that were there. And so to not only teach students agriculture is not just farming, because I do remember I heard that as we started, and I was like, oh, okay, like I know we live in a farming community, kind of, but okay, like we're going to change that idea today. But also to like have my first facilitation experience, the first session was a little rough because I was like, okay, like here we go. Like we're gonna get through this one together. Because I had never taught a student before in my life. Like we're just gonna try it. But then the next year, as I worked with 2 other students who were also on my chapter office team, so we kind of need to get some people that aren't on the officer team to help do this because half of us are graduating. But as we worked through that, I was like, okay, like this is how we kind of plan ag camp. This is how we run it. I mean, we made the decision to make it 2 days long, which was really cool. And so to have students for 2 days and to be able to teach them more things about natural resources and ecology and plants and animals together, I think was a really neat experience. And to allow them to experience a lot of different things. And so to have that experience, I think being my first education experience hands-on was a really neat experience. To also not only educate students, but see the background of it as well. So how do we plan lessons? How do we plan activities? How do we make sure that everyone's where they need to be and that when we're using scissors, our fingers aren't getting cut off? And so all the things you have to worry about as a teacher, I think, really helps me understand that, like, I really like education and I think I could see myself doing that for the rest of my life.
I love that. I love that the realization of this is exactly what I want to do and I found my place came from something in the FFA that's so special. We had ag camp as well as summer camp. We did 2 days of elementary school and 2 days of middle school. And like where that facilitated your love for education, that was definitely a moment for me where I realized, okay, I'm going to take the leadership and more communication side of things. Because like you said, teaching children to use scissors the correct way kind of seemed like an act of God to me. So in that same aspect, you learn what you love and you learn what you don't love. And I love how FFA gives every student the opportunity to have that, to learn what you like, what you don't like, have those experiences and move forward from it. I kind of want to derail off of an outline for a second. You said you show cattle. That's definitely Lacey's and I's love language. Talk a little bit about that SAE.
So this is actually one that I never put in my AET because I don't need it. And I couldn't force myself to have another one. But cattle has been a part of my mom's family for a really long time. So they had feedlot animals. And then my uncle started a cow-calf operation out of that. And so I spent a lot of time around that. And so my brother and I think when I was in 3rd grade, we bought a cow together. And probably the worst financial decision I've ever made in my life, but that is okay. I mean, we ended up selling her because she was just not producing animals that could walk or could see. Like, there was always something wrong with them. So we got rid of her and we got a new one. And so then we moved a year after we had bought our new cow. And we sold the first calf because I was like, I don't know if I want to show. Like, I just moved. Like, I don't really need something else on my plate. But then she had a heifer calf. And I loved Coconut. And so I kept her, and she was my show heifer for the last year. And she kind of, by the end of the year, was kind of like a dog. Like, I would call her and she would come running. And it was awesome. Except when we got to county fair, she rammed me into the panels for an entire lap around the ring and then decided that that wasn't where she wanted to be. So that was an experience. And I think it tested my composure, patience, love for animals. Yeah. All the things. But then this year, my brother's also showing with me. And so we have 2 steers and a heifer. I don't know if we'll show her market or breeding yet. We'll see. We'll see how she grows. But yeah, I love cattle. And I remember when I was younger, like 7th grade, I was at the farm and I was there alone because everyone else like went to Walmart. And I was like, I'm not going to Walmart. And I remember I took the gator out and I just sat in the middle and they all circled around me because I thought I had food. They all circled around me. I just remember feeling so at peace. And so I think that's how I realized, like, wait, like I also really love the cattle side of this. And I really like those animals. But I think it's also a neat experience to see how do we raise animals from a cow-calf and then how do they end up on our plate? Because I also work in the meat lab. And so that's been a really neat full circle moment for me as well.
Absolutely. No, my very first steer, I also have a picture of me sledding around the show ring. So that's normal. It builds grit and perseverance. And I agree on the cow-calf operations side. My family's also very involved in the cattle industry, and being able to see the pasture to plate process is so inspiring, and that the product you're giving consumers is nutritional and healthy and a good product to be marketing. With all of this aside, I want to know how you balance it all. I remember being in high school, which wasn't that long ago, and remembering being like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. Then I've gotten to college and I realized that was not overwhelmed at all. But how do you balance everything, Esther? Maybe I'll take a good rule out of your book or something.
If I'm being honest, I have no idea. Like, I have no idea. Because last year I was on the chapter office team for the first time. I was playing competitive club volleyball 45 minutes from my house. What else was I doing? I was in 4-H. I was involved in my youth group, and I was trying to keep my grades, which by the grace of God, the grades were kept. I don't know how, but the grades were kept. And so I just think a skill that I've learned, especially over the past years, is how to ask for help and to admit that I can't do it all on my own. And so either delegating responsibilities on our officer team or telling my mom, like, this section makes no sense, but that's the best I've got on this paper. Like, please read it and fix it. Or sending it to my mentors that I've worked with, or any of those things, I think has really allowed me to learn now that it's okay that I don't have it all figured out and that I don't know exactly how to do it all on my own. And so I think it's allowed me to learn the soft skills, like time management a little bit. Kind of need to learn that this year. But also how to say no. because I remember last year I said yes to a lot of things that I should not have said yes to. And so I think just learning some of those skills before I get to college, I think has allowed me to set myself up for more success.
Yeah, you definitely have to
Absolutely.
make sure you prioritize yourself in that situation. And it's good that you're already learning that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say no to some things because you have to keep your sanity. You have to keep them grades. And there are things that you have, it's almost like a priority list of like, okay, this is what I need to make sure I get done. And on top of that is making sure I stay sane. Because if I'm not sane, none of this gets done. So it's good to build that skill before college.
Well,
Yeah,
in
girl, go ahead.
Over winter break, so all of our applications, so my state degree interview is February 4th. All of our other applications are due either on the 4th of February or the 13th of February. So I'm applying for 2 proficiencies. I'm getting my state degree. I'm running for State Star, and I'm doing the Agri-Science Fair. And so I bought this whiteboard from Target for $20, best investment I've ever made, and wrote out everything I had to do because I love a good, I'm the type of person that if I did something that was not on my to-do list for the day, I will add it just so I can mark it off because I like drawing a line through things. And so I filled this whiteboard with everything I had to do, and I loved erasing it. It was my favorite part. And so I think that's how I keep my sanity a little bit too, is just a good to-do list.
Esther, I think we might be twins in some aspect of our life. Sister from another mister. I remember telling Lacey and Rachel my selfish goal for 2025 was to be on stage at state convention at every session. I ran for star. I had 2 proficiencies, the same exact thing you're talking about. And a to-do list was heavenly to be able to knock things out, cross them off, achieve the task, check it off. That is dopamine in itself, I tell you.
Yeah.
And I think that's great advice for a younger member. And you have so much wisdom beyond your years, and you've been so humble throughout this entire episode. And I'm so glad our listeners get to see that side of you. Is there one last piece of advice you would give to a younger FFA member, or truthfully anyone listening in today that wants to pursue a career in ag education, wants to do ag research, anything that you've been a part of, what's something valuable you might pass down?
I think I have 2 parts. So my number 1 part is to take the risk, because you never know where it could land you. Like if my ag teacher would have given up on me and said, okay, you don't want to do it, like that's okay. Like I don't think I would be the person I am. And their belief in me to try again. So I've done public speaking for 5 years too. The greatest experience of my life has been to public speak. I've met some of my best friends. But I remember my 8th grade year, I gave this speech in one of the 8 million areas that Oklahoma FFA offers for speeches, which is not how Nebraska does it. So it was kind of a weird awakening when I moved. But I did it in this 8th grade category, and I got 3rd at regionals, 1 spot away from going to area. And I said, I don't think this is for me. And then to fast forward and to see the growth that I've had and the progress I've made, not only in my public speaking skills, but also to see it pay off as I got to make state speech finals my sophomore year. I think to take the risk and to try again, I think allows for more growth. And the success is so much more rewarding when it doesn't work out the first time. But I think also to build a community, because I've learned as I've walked that life is done better together. And so whether it's a community to celebrate you or to carry whatever is going on outside of FFA and outside of Ag Ed and going on in your everyday life, so whether it's school or family or anything else you're a part of, my community has shown up. And so to build that community not only with FFA, but also within my school and with my teachers and all the other people that are involved in it, I think that would be my biggest piece of advice, is to build a community and to take a risk.
I feel like that is such a good 2-parter of piece of advice, like such a way to finish out an episode too. So that was literally perfect. Esther, thank you again for coming on here. It has been so cool to get to nerd out with all of the different sides. I feel like we barely even scratched the surface, but again, thank you so much for coming on here. Your story really reminds us that growth in agriculture happens through exploration, whether that's in a lab, a classroom, or a camp setting. By saying yes to all those opportunities and continue to ask those questions, you've built this experience that reflects both depth and purpose. So thank you for joining us on this episode of Beyond the Jacket, and thank you all for listening, and tune in for our next episode.